Welcome to the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Inspire Wealth, bringing you interviews with top business professionals, empowering you to understand our current business climate and the successes and struggles other business professionals have overcome. Here's your host, Nick Bour.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast. This is your host, Nick Bour with Inspire Wealth, and today we have on Precious Carter, and I am really excited to talk to her. She is a serial entrepreneur, has started and built several businesses, and I just think it's great what she's done, and I really am excited to hear about her journey as an entrepreneur. Precious, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the time.
So, Precious, let's talk. Let's start. Talk a little bit about your background and how you've become to kind of start and grow as many businesses as you have.
Awesome. I love to talk about that. So just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm Precious S. Carter. I'm a speaker, teacher, trainer, and a serial entrepreneur. The thing that kind of differentiates me from most is that I was not supposed to be in the position that I'm in. I actually was born in prison. And I always share that part of my story because I always want people to know that if a person who was born in a bound state, who grew up without a mom or a father, who grew up and had situations where they dealt with abuse, neglect, and even was homeless at one point in time, to now being a person who owns 6 businesses that generate close to about $8 million a year. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I never, in corporate America, I always had great success. I've always been able to quickly get promoted. I have directed and managed people who are degreed nurses and who are doctors, and I myself do not have a college degree. But what I do have is the ability to think strategically and creatively and to solve problems. And so in 2017, I started coaching on a very low level because I worked a full-time job, and it's really hard to become an entrepreneur when you have your time dedicated to other people's businesses. And so I set a goal for myself to leave corporate America in 2020. I set it to leave in March of 2020, but we all know what happened in March of 2020. Like, the world got introduced to COVID. And so, like everybody, I was afraid. I didn't want to put my family in a financial bind. I wasn't really sure how things were going to shake out. And so I waited. And I was miserable, and every day I hated going to work. And by the way, I had a wonderful job. I definitely thank God for the job. It was a job that you would keep if you didn't have a burning desire to do something else. And so in September, I decided, okay, you know what? This is not work. I got to quit. And I announced that I was resigning on Facebook. Because everybody talks to everybody on Facebook, because those are our friends in real life, right? And immediately a therapist got in my inbox, and she's like, hey, I've been watching you, and I was going to ask you to be my life coach, and I just now, your post prompted me. And I'm like, yeah, sure, my books are open. I have more room for more people. And so I was excited, like, yay, things are moving in the right direction. And then the next day she said, no, scratch that. I want you to become the life coach for my practice. And so literally the day after I announced on Facebook that my last day is September 16th, I have a contract for now 50 new life coaching clients. And that's another teachable there for your audience, is that the moment sometimes you let go of fear and you step fully into your calling, it just comes to you naturally. Things really have worked out for me in a way that I think it's been kind of supernatural, and I'm very thankful for it. So that's how I kind of started to free up my time so that I can become involved in entrepreneurship at a full-time basis. I have some partners and I who they purchased a luxury Sprinter. It was a Mercedes Metris, and that was the first Sprinter, and now we have an 8-seater. And then I also one of my partners said, "Hey, Precious, I think you can do this. This is an Amazon logistics company." And basically, anyone who delivers to you from Amazon does not work for Amazon. Amazon partners with small companies like mine. My company is PSC Unlimited, and we deliver packages to your door. So I have 22 trucks. I have 17 box trucks and 5 step vans. And so that's another business. And then we have a group home. We have a restaurant. We have several businesses, and I don't need to go into the story on all of them. So, yeah.
Wow. Precious, I want to start off by saying, you know what? One thing is I think your journey is number one, I think very inspiring. And like you said, I think that more people need to be aware of and need to know that just because where you start in life may not be your ideal, or may not be the greatest situation from a family situation or a financial situation, that doesn't mean that's where your life has to lead you. And I think your story, more than a lot of stories I've heard, I really hope that inspires people that may be in your situation growing up, that they realize that as well, because you don't hear that enough. You hear, okay, well, people are growing up in poverty, and you know what, they're in an unfortunate situation, or they're in foster care, or they're in this. And you know what? Just because that is your situation as a child and growing up, that doesn't mean that your life is not going to be fulfilled, or to be able to inspire others, or to be able to be successful. And I think in a lot of ways, I mean, without knowing anything else, I think in a lot of ways your life is successful on several areas. And I hope you agree with that.
I do. I always tell people that your mind is going to believe whatever you tell it. And so one of the key focuses in my life and my businesses is getting really clear on what it is that you want, getting really clear on the vision that you have for the life that you want to live. Because once you're clear on that vision, and I mean, when I'm dealing with my clients, I get so crystal clear, like down to what do you want to smell when you wake up? Do you want to wake up with an alarm clock or not? Because I think it's important, because once you are clear on the vision and you start to intentionally do one thing, each day until it becomes a habit to get you toward that vision, your mindset shifts and you really start to want that vision so much that you can taste it, see it, smell it, and you can almost touch it. And so your mind doesn't have time to entertain anything that's trivial and not important at the end of the day. Because we're all going to go through problems. We're all going to face barriers, and we're all going to need to be able to find a way to overcome those without letting ourselves getting pulled down into a depressive state, or a state where we're focusing on the problem versus the solution. So that's what I really try to say, is you have to program your mind to think positively, to think about how to be creative, to be a problem solver, versus getting caught up, like we all have the ability to do, in what is in front of us right now, instead of seeing the bigger picture.
It's so interesting that you say that, and I couldn't agree with you more. That mindset and the information you not only put in your mind, but how you train your mind to believe in being positive or being negative, and what impacts you or affects you from a thinking standpoint, is so critical in today's world. And I think it's, for me, and this also relates to my business. So I've been in the financial services business for 20 years. I own and operate a financial planning firm, Inspire Wealth, and I will tell you, for me, it's a lot of solving problems. So like you kind of mentioned, like strategic thinking, solving problems for people. Well, I help people every day solve and plan for their financial problems or their financial planning, and I think it's so interesting that you need to have that mindset, and that more people aren't as, I don't want to say thankful for what they have, but I almost want to say, like, you're at where you at. you can't really go backwards. You can't change that. And now what do you need to do on a daily or weekly basis to be able to create that habit so that you're not going to make some of the mistakes you feel like you've made in the past again?
Right. Exactly. I agree with that 100%. And I think before you even, in my opinion, before you even try to create different habits, you need to really decide what you want. Because if you don't decide what you want, like, because for some people it might be, I want to be a serial entrepreneur. For some people it might be, hey, I just want one small micro business where I just employ myself and I have a couple of independent contractors. Some may want to just get a promotion at their job to a specific, department that they've always wanted to be in. But I think once you're clear on that, you can kind of have a narrow focus and you can really go towards that. I've heard that term, niches make riches, or something like that. And I think it's because it's very hard to be a master of many things. I think you have to get one thing down at a time, and then once you have great success on that, you can move forward. And so for me, that's just the way that I live my life. I'm very strong on knowing what I want in each one of my businesses. One of the things that I love to do for my employees is I like to create an environment that they want to come to. I mean, because if we're honest, none of us really want to go to work. Like, we don't want to go give our time for money. But if we have to go, I want to create an environment that my team feels comfortable in and that they want to come to every day.
Wow.
And I'm very clear on my boundaries because I have multiple businesses and I can't take my hands off of a single one of them. But I also cannot allow myself to get overwhelmed because it would make you want to quit.
Right.
And so I have very clear boundaries on when I will deal with certain things. I have hired the help that I need at every business so that I have people that are funneling information to me as I need it, so I'm not trying to put out small fires that don't really require my time. And it allows me to think strategically and creatively on how to scale each business. So I work in Amazon. I'm just going to give you a quick example of that. In Amazon, we work in a warehouse, and there are two other companies that are just like mine on the same workstation, like literally one sits directly next to me and then the other sits directly next to them. And my DSP was the one chosen to start a new project. It's called Captain Planet. It's where we deliver packages that are smaller than the XL, which is what I do, but larger than the ZL, which is the packages that you get every day, like, the purses, the shirts, the books. And because I was able to really just step away, think creatively, and create relationships, I was the newest DSP. I started in September of last year, but I am the go-to DSP in that station and almost the go-to DSP in Columbus, and I'm proud of that. But I also know that I could not have done it without vision and creating very clear boundaries on what it is that I was going to allow and not allow in my space.
And I think that's extremely important in how many businesses you own and operate, because I think that, like you mentioned, you can, if you don't set boundaries and you don't have that clear vision, how easy is it to just be spread so thin that a lot of things fail, or several of your businesses are not achieving or reaching the goals that you're seeking out for, or they're going to flounder, or all those different things that as a business owner, we have to try to manage on a day in and day out basis. So I give you a lot of credit. 6 businesses and recognizing that what you want in each business and what you want from each business, and having the proper support and the proper people in the right areas that you can rely and count on so that you can do what you're really good at, which it sounds like not only as a serial entrepreneur, but a strategic thinker and problem solver.
Yeah, that's really who I am. I really am good at talking to people and figuring things out. And so I couldn't find a job like that in corporate America, so I decided to create one.
Okay. And again, the fact that not only, Precious, the fact that you did it, but the fact that you did it several times over is what is really impressive to me, is that you're not just one business. You're not just two businesses, and it's several industries. It's not even like you own 6 restaurants or you own you own 6 group homes. You own several industries and several businesses across different industries. So, like you've already said, I mean, not only do you have to have clear visions and you have to have clear directions of each business, but you need to know who you need to put in place at each business. And each one of those are completely different people with completely different strengths.
Right. Absolutely. And you have to take a moment. I remember when I first started Amazon, the DSP, we hired anybody because our goal was to scale up to these 10 routes. We started with 2, and we knew that would not be a long-term solution. We knew that we wouldn't be able to sustain that. But in all honesty, I'm going to say we thought that we would not be able to do that, sustain and make it sustainable. But because I have a talent at talking to people and coaching people, I actually still have everyone except for there are 2 people that I knew that they weren't going to work. My husband wanted to hire him. I'm like, I don't think they're going to be a good fit for Precious, because if you want to work for Precious, you got to like me, and I got to like you too. But we have all of our staff from when we started, and I'm going to give you a problem that we ran across and the response that I got from my staff, and it really warmed me, and it touched my heart, and it let me know that I'm doing exactly what I should be doing, and I'm impacting people the way that I want. I recently had an issue with payroll. My payroll was credited. My transfer was sent to another company, so ADP versus Paycom, right? Okay. And I didn't even realize that it was done until my staff did get paid, and I'm like going like crazy on the payroll company, like, no, these people need their money now. Long story short, when we found out the issue, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, because I can't do this. And I just had to come to my staff like, look, I'm not going to be able to resolve this for at least 5 days. If you guys need to get off the schedule, because they drive trucks, Right. I'm like, if you guys need to get off the schedule to go do Lyft, to go do Uber, to go do something else so that you can bring money in while you're waiting on your check, I understand that. I'll drop routes. Like, I'll do what I need to do. And I got so many encouraging calls from my staff, like, no, Ms. P, you've done so much for us. We would not do that. If somebody else needs to be off, I'll pick up their route. Like, it was just so overwhelming because I really worked hard at trying to be the person that I needed in every aspect of my life, whether it comes to me reaching out to the kids and speaking at schools or even when I'm coaching my clients, I try to be the person I needed, and I definitely try to be the employer that I always wanted. And so not a single person actually said, yep, I'm going to take off. They just waited. And it really let me know, like, because sometimes I get overwhelmed. And that was definitely an overwhelming situation. I'm like, how the heck does something like this even happen? And why won't this company help me?
Right.
Like, I pay y'all, and I have a good relationship with you. But to know that my staff, my team, my biggest team, by the way, these are people who they're not waiting on a $500 check. They're waiting on a $2,500 check and a $3,000 check, and they're waiting patiently. And so it's just it's encouraging to know that once you're clear on who you are and how you want to present yourself in the world, and then you do it, you're going to reap the fruits of that.
And I think it goes back to, you just made a comment of, if someone works for you, you have to like them and they have to like you. And you really want to, you said you wanted to create an environment that people, even though no one likes to go to work, but like your employees actually want to come to work. And I think that goes back to what you just said and their reaction, Precious. I think it's, you showed them that dedication and that commitment and that creating that work environment that you always wanted in corporate America but could never find. And like you mentioned, you created your ideal corporate job, and now you're trying to do it for your employees where you have an environment to where, look, you care about them. They obviously know you care about them, or they wouldn't have reacted the way they did.
Absolutely. And I know that they know that, and I know that they love me. I get those reports all the time because I have to interact with Amazon a lot. But that to me was just like next level, because I was fully prepared to like have to shut down or maybe go back down to 2 routes. But nope, I was even able to pick up some extra routes during that time. So it's just been amazing to see how the vision is really working the way that it was kind of designed to, you know.
You know, and I think that reinforces what you've built already and what you're continuing to try to build and grow, is that you're creating that environment that people want to be in. You're creating that relationship with your employees that I don't think exists at a lot of places anymore.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's so important. You know, I have one full-time employee myself, who's my operations manager, who's newer with me. He's been with me a few months, and I will tell you, I kind of told her from the very beginning, like, I'm kind of hitting the reboot button myself for my financial planning business, because I broke off from a partner about 1.5 years ago at the tail end of 20. So I kind of mentioned to her, like, look, I want you to be my right hand. I want you to be my core person that I can rely on, and you do that, and you help me do this the way I want to do it and create the environment that we want for clients. I promise that you will be a long-term part of this picture, and you will be part of it, and I will make sure you're rewarded for it. So, like, I'm trying to do something similar in my mindset of making sure she knows how valued she is and how appreciated she is, because I think that is a forgotten piece for employees now, especially employees that are loyal, especially those employees that you can see, barring, all the things being equal, they're that person that you can see being with you for the long run, and that you can see caring and working together and trying to accomplish your vision and what you're trying to do for that business.
Right. It's just been absolutely, it's just been like, it's a necessary for me. Like, I'm not wavering on that. Even though, like, and the thing about your vision and your business and your boundaries is that you have to be willing to, even when it doesn't make sense to anybody else, even when you don't necessarily have the support that you want or need for someone, you cannot waver in what it is that you want, because each and every one of us has the ability to be like a pacemaker, a trendsetter, right? We have the ability to blaze the path, to blaze the trail for people. But if we are wavering, or if we falter because of other people's opinions, or somebody else doesn't think that we can do it, or it doesn't make sense, then you never really get to fully see it through, because you allow that doubt and that fear to come in.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree with that more.
It's important to be clear. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I know we've talked about, a few things so far. I mean, you talked a lot about vision and making sure you create boundaries because of the multiple hats you wear and the several businesses you've started and grown. I know you've also talked a little bit about communication, and you mentioned the example of the payroll, snafu from that happened, and how you communicated that with your employees and how important that was. Talk about, from a business perspective, how important you think communication and strategy ties into not only everything you do, but how important it needs to be in a lot of different entrepreneurs in making sure that they're successful in their business.
I think it is probably one of the most important things in entrepreneurship and in relationships in general, because as we said earlier, your mind is going to believe whatever it is that you tell it. Whatever it is, it's going to fill in the blanks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so as far as an entrepreneur, you have to be, number one, clear on what it is that you want, and you have to communicate it clearly. Because if not, when people don't meet your expectation, it's really your fault, because they don't know. They're not really sure on what it is that you wanted, how it is that you wanted it to get it accomplished, and what your goal was. And so if you don't do that and people miss the mark or they don't meet your expectations, it's usually because we don't communicate clearly. And the reason that we don't communicate clearly is, number one, I don't think we really know. I think we have an idea of what we want, but we don't really know exactly it. And number two, sometimes we have a fear of whether we're going to get the buy-in of the people. And so what I always tell like my coaching clients who want to become entrepreneurs is entrepreneurship is the thing that I'll tell you has probably, like I dealt with a lot of rejection and abandonment just by virtue of how I was born and raised, right? Mm-hmm. But when I tell you that entrepreneurship, it can bring out those type of feelings and experiences at a greater level because now you got to sell stuff. You know what I mean? Like right. Now your money is based off of selling stuff and people might say no. Yep. And so you have to be able to accept that rejection as it's not rejecting you because you're not your business. Like even though I am a brand, I'm a speaker, I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer, a coach, you saying no to what I have to offer is not you saying no to me. And so you have to get clear on that. And then you have to be very strategic in understanding that sometimes you got to, a confused mind always says no.
Right.
So if you're not clear on what it is that you're telling them, what it is that you want, you're not going to get the buy-in. You're not going to get the sale. You're not going to have the success in any type of relationship. And so you got to let go of the fear, and you've got to let go of – most of us know what we want, but we're afraid to say it because we think it's too big. You know what I mean? And yep. Until we get beyond that, we're just not going to get it because our mind is going to think, nope, this is going to be easier to do it this way. Nobody else has ever done it that way. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Yeah, no, I think that's a great statement you just made. So, Precious, to kind of wrap up here, I mean, I've really enjoyed your story and what you've done and some of your areas that you feel are vital in your success and your continued success as an entrepreneur. And, from that standpoint, I mean, again, I know you own a lot of businesses. Obviously, you're a coach, and I think that's a big piece. But I also, you own other businesses. What is if any of our listeners want to reach out to you and just whether it's talk to you about your coaching business or talk to you about a speaking engagement or anything, what is the best way to reach you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
I'm Precious S. Carter everywhere. So if you're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or even if you just like to Google stuff, Google Precious S. Carter or go to preciousscarter.com. My email address is info@preciousscarter.com. So I'm super, I'm accessible. I'm here. I play a lot on Instagram because it's fun to me to share my life through stories and pictures. I answer DMs. I set up consultation calls, 10 or 15-minute calls, absolutely free. I give away a ton of free content and live video every single day. And so, I love to connect with people, and I encourage you and all of your followers to connect with me, and let's continue the conversation.
No, I think that's great. I will absolutely be following you on Instagram as well as LinkedIn and Facebook. I think that's great. I've been very, very happy. I'm glad we were able to get you on the show, and I appreciate your time. And Precious, I think what you've overcome in your life and also what you've built so far and what you continue to build should be not only inspiring to many, but it should really, really show any entrepreneur from any background or any experience that anything you create that clear vision and that you set that as a goal, that anything's possible.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time as well.
Hey, thanks so much, Precious. And anyone listening, appreciate your time as well, and look forward to having you on the next show and listening then. Everyone, hope you have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Inspired Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Inspire Wealth. To learn more about the topics mentioned on today's show, or to listen to past episodes, visit www.inspiredbusinessleaderspodcast.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.